So cool. But, hey there. I was working. Hey, we don't really have class today. It's like this asynchronous thing. There is a small thing that I want you to do, just to think about some stuff. All right, as we go into next week and whatnot. We have this simulation we're doing, the spreading viruses simulation, and again, maybe I'm beating a dead horse. I want to get across the importance of this assignment, if you will, or the key important things from the assignment. You are tasked with setting some sort of policy to make sure that you can contain the spread of a virus. And what you are given as your tool to make a decision is this simulation thing that we have before us. Clearly, this simulation has some things that are accurate in true life, and clearly there's a ton of stuff that are not accurate. All right. All these little people are bouncing around like little balls, and you give it enough time and every little ball is going to pass every other little ball in a short amount of time. That's not realistic, right? I live in the town of Lexington. I don't run across everybody in town every day, every week, even a year. There's thousands of people that I just don't see ever, right? I mean, that part's not realistic. But there's things that we can learn from it. We can learn out of principle this idea that if all I try to do is take the sick people and quarantine them, it's probably not going to work, because 100% quarantine just never really works. There's going to be some interaction, and eventually some person who is healthy is going to come in and back out by carrying the disease, or a sick person is just going to leave because that's what people do. And then it's going to infect others. It's going to spread. And if that's our only defense is cordoning people off, it's not going to work. We can see that asking people, in some sense, to stay still, to shelter in place, can make a huge difference, right? If everyone sits completely still on the screen, the virus doesn't spread very far at all. We can also work on the infection chance. What happens if I lower the infection chance? Even though people are bouncing around each other, I can see the effects. Now, we need data to back all this kind of stuff up. Like some of these things I can see visually. I can watch that little quarantine thing go down, but yet there's some people pass through, and there's a high likelihood that someone's going to pass through and get everyone sick. There's not necessarily a ton of data to collect there. I can just see it happening. But you can, at home where you are now, with your laptop, do two things at once. One, watch a movie. I highly recommend Into the Spider-Verse. Watch a movie, but on the side, run some simulations. And what I did is I left some things exactly the same from when they started off. 200 people, no quarantine. Everyone moves around as much as they want to. I'm not messing with these because I don't think I can change those really. I don't know what they really mean. They were sort of set for me. You can have that mindset and leave it alone. That's how fast people get sick or how fast they get better and are not infectious and stuff like that. But then let's talk about the infection chance. What happens if this disease is highly contagious, and if someone has it and I get too close to them, I'm just going to get it, right? And that's kind of how we've been viewing COVID, because we realize it is highly contagious, and it's contagious before you're symptomatic, which means you're not necessarily keeping distance from a guy that you think is healthy, even though he or she might not be, right? And so what I did is I ran 10 simulations, and if I were you, I would run a little bit more, maybe 20. It takes twice as long, obviously, but you'll get better results probably. And what I did is I ran some simulations, hit reset run, and then I collected the data that came out of here, and I just made a spreadsheet. And so the only thing that I changed from time to time was the infection chance. All the other things I left constant. And then I just recorded the information that came out of there. I didn't record the mins and the maxes. You could, that would be useful information perhaps. But I recorded the average of stuff in the standard deviations over and over again. And then what I was interested in this particular case, I was just thinking to myself, what happens if I'm able to reduce the infection chance? In real life, what can I do to change the infection chance, right? I can wear this mask, which is a very low cost intervention, right? This costs a couple dollars and is an imposition on my personal liberties, but it's not that costly to me. I can still go out and shop and things like that. Other things I can do to reduce infection chance. I can wash my hands off and I can use hand sanitizer. If I'm a store, I can wash more, clean more. And that does cost something, right? The company has to pay for extra employees perhaps to clean, or you're diverting your current employees from one job to another job, that kind of stuff. So that does incur a cost, though maybe not super high. What else can we do to reduce infection chance? Well, we could socially distance, where we just say stay 6 feet apart, right? Now, on my end, it doesn't cost me anything. If I'm a small shop owner, it might cost me something, which I can't only have a certain number of customers in my store. So there's a cost there. So there's those things that I can do. Now, what I did is, again, I ran these simulations for the infection chance going down, and I don't know what it takes to get down to a 10% infection chance. I don't know what it is, but I found out that through the simulation, it made a difference. And if I graph it, it's not exactly a purely linear relationship. And because it's all random, things bounced up and down. I really don't think that if you go from an 80% to a 70% chance of infection, that actually you're going to get more sick people. That's an artifact of random chance that could get smoothed out if I ran more simulations. But what I realized in this chart is the higher the infection chance, the higher the number of people are going to get sick at the same time. Remember, that's one of the things we were trying to limit, was the number of people sick at the same time, because that's when you overwhelm your health system, right? Okay, and so what I'm learning, though, is that if I do minimal amounts to reduce infection chance, it has kind of a minimal effect. But once you become a little bit more aggressive, it does drive things down. So that's interesting. Again, it'll help me determine some sort of policy. And I might want to write a policy to the governor that says, hey, turn down the infection chance to 30%, and then you're only going to have 25 people sick at the same time. He'll look at you like you're an idiot, right? Like, what are you talking about? Now, this is the simulation that helps you understand what's going on in the real world. But you can say, if we can reduce the chance of infection by a little bit, it won't make that much of a difference. If we can take some more drastic, important measures to reduce it by quite a bit, it can have a big effect. Now, science needs to kick in and say, well, how much does this affect my infection chance? I have seen some stuff that says maybe as much as 50%. Oh, this alone can drop down the infection chance by 50%? Wow, that alone helps push this dial down a little bit, right? And then you can keep going. Now, when I say by 50%, it already didn't start at 100, right? We started lower than that. So maybe if we started at 80, now we're at 40. If we already started at 60, we're at 30, things like that, right? So the goal is not to analyze this as though this is the real world and you have a population of just 200 people who just madly go back and forth in front of each other, right? That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to develop some sort of tools to say, oh, I understand that these principles are happening. And again, you can create a metric if you want to. It sort of measures how things go. That's a great way of saying, oh, this policy actually is a little bit better because we have these simultaneous things of stay at home costs me something. Although it could save other people from getting sick, it has another cost, and I need to weigh that. And that's tough. That's really, really tough. How do I put an economic value on something where I have people getting jobs and other people may pass away? That's really hard to do. And the governors and the president have these choices to make. It's hard, and this is why I don't want to become president. But you're trying to help set this policy and think about these hard things. All right, so that's the only assignment, really, is not even an assignment that you're going to turn in, but just an encouragement. You have time. Sit around and just play with this. I value play, and once you're doing something, just to sort of see how it works out and get an understanding for this, and I think you'll end up with a better project on the other side. So I hope you have a good break. If you have questions, you can contact me. You can send me an email and that kind of stuff. Otherwise, I will see you on Monday when we get back. All right, take care, everybody.